This is going to be your guide for getting competitive Pokemon in Pokemon Sun and Moon. Now, this is the most requested and most intensive guide I have done so far for Pokemon Sun and Moon, so please show your appreciation, leave a like, and now let's go and talk about breeding. So, 7th generation, not too much has changed, except that this is your new daycare loop that you gotta do circles around right here, and as long as Tauros is charging, you will be good to go. That this does count towards your step counter. As you notice, if you go in one direction for too long, it will stop you, and that's pretty much how you end it. So just gotta keep doing some circles, guys. So every once in a while, you want to go and check if you have an egg, and then you can either put it into the PC or add it to your party. So that's a nice little feature added to the 7th generation. You don't have to keep turning down eggs if your party is full. You can start adding them to the PC, and then you can take them out and start hatching them as needed, but you don't have to go up and down anyway. So this is pretty much the only major change, and a lot of other breeding does work the same. As for the other changes though, we have no leveling up and no move changes while inside the daycare, and it's also now called the nursery, so maybe that's why it behaves a little differently. There's no official AFK daycare loop in the 7th generation that we know about right now. You can't just hold one direction and either gain infinite experience, or you can't hatch Pokemon non-stop, and there's also no hatching O-Powers, or no O-Powers in general, so that's going to make it a little challenging to just kind of go and hatch as many Pokemon as fast as possible, that we don't get these insane ratios that we used to get back in X and Y and Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire. Now, for all the people that are breeding currently or trying to get started breeding in Pokemon Sun and Moon, the first thing you'll need is a Fletchinder. That you can get this on Route 8, and make sure you have a flame body on it. I know, right? There's something other than Gale Wings that can be competitive. Pretty much, flame body Pokemon will cause the eggs in your party to hatch faster, so that's why you're going to want a flame body Pokemon in your party when you're doing any kind of egg hatching. The next thing you want to do is receive an Oval Charm. So the Oval Charm will increase the rate at which eggs are received from the nursery. So if you want maximum breeding output, this is going to be the way to go, and you can get it by battling Shigeki Morimoto at the Game Freak headquarters in the post game. So he'll have a pretty strong team of all first generation Pokemon. You go and beat him, and then you will receive the Oval Charm in return, and that's pretty much going to be it for like 7th generation and Pokemon Sun and Moon changes overall. But if you do want to understand just the maximum efficiency, everything about IVs and all the other things about breeding, that's what the rest of this guide is for. So starting off, we pretty much can figure out that you put one Pokemon in the daycare, you put another Pokemon in daycare, as long as one's a guy and one's a girl, you'll be able to receive a baby Pokemon. That's pretty much the fundamentals and the mechanics of how it works. Now, the female Pokemon will always result in the offspring. So right here, male Blastoise, female Charmander, and that will result in the egg having a Charmander inside. So the reason why I have Blastoise and Charmander here is also to kind of show how extreme breeding can be. That we have two Pokemon that seem like they wouldn't really get along at all. We have a first stage Pokemon and a final stage Pokemon. We also have a water type and a fire type, but they can still mate. And I think that that's one of the big things to notice. However, there are some limitations. It's not like you can go slap Ho-Oh, slap Lugia in a daycare, and then you're either going to get one of those legendary Pokemon, or you're going to get some kind of horrible, crazy, powerful offspring. No, this is where egg groups come into play, and kind of shows, like, as long as the Pokemon's in the same egg group, it doesn't really matter from there, and as long as it also is not in the undiscovered egg group. That undiscovered, that's where a lot of legendary Pokemon go. There are some other Pokemon, like Nidorina and Nidoqueen, that can't breed as well, but for the most part, if it's in undiscovered, then there's no hope saving it, but if it's in gender unknown, then it will be for the Ditto group, and then there's going to be some other stuff right there. So as long as the Pokemon are in the same egg groups, you should be good to go. And now let's go for another extreme example. We have Cofagrigus and we have Gardevoir. They are both in the amorphous egg group, so they can actually breed together. And then also there's going to be dual egg groups. So Cofagrigus is also in the mineral egg group. That means we can take something like Klefki and then breed it with a Klefki as well, because Klefki is also in the mineral egg group. However, just because they are not in the same egg group does not mean it will automatically cause breeding. That if a Pokemon has no known gender, or it is a genderless Pokemon, then that means it will not be breedable even if it is in the same egg group. Pretty much genderless Pokemon will need to breed with a Ditto. And now we are talking about the peak, the climax of our breeding guide right here, because Ditto is the holy grail for breeding. That as long as the Pokemon is not in the undiscovered egg group, you can breed it with Ditto, and that's where a lot of pretty crazy stuff comes into play. Even if it is a genderless Pokemon, you just breed it, and then that will be the magic right there. Now, Ditto will never hatch a Ditto, and you can't get a Ditto egg, so always be the other Pokemon that you're breeding it with, even if it is a male as well. And now, this is why we're going to start talking about IVs, or individual values. So IVs can range from 0 to 31, and they will impact a Pokemon's stat directly. At level 100, 1 IV equals 1 point in stats, so that's why they are very valuable. Having 0 IVs or low IVs compared to 31 is going to make a huge difference, and also IVs are absolutely necessary in a Pokemon's maximum stats, which you'll notice in guides and other pages and tutorials on Pokemon battling. So you will need as many high IVs as possible, and this can be done via a Destiny Knot. So the Destiny Knot will make it to where 5 stats, IVs, will actually carry over from either parent into the offspring, which is why this is what you want to use it. You want to try to get an offspring Pokemon that has 5 IVs that are maxed out or as high as possible, and then that's where we can start getting our breed on. So to receive a Destiny Knot, pretty much the quickest way is just going to be going to the Battle Royale Battle Point shop and then buying it for 48 BP. So once you get 48 BP, then you are ready to start your breeding. But now let's get complicated with the IV breakdown. So we have Destiny Knot, and we have one of our Pokemon that we are breeding holding it. Well, that means we're going to get a random assortment and random mash of IVs, and this is where the RNG of breeding does come into play. So right now, for example, let's just say that our Ditto has like 31 IVs in hit points, special defense, and speed. We're going to be going for those, and at the same time, our Toxapex is going to have 31 IVs in the defense and special defense. So as we can see here, this is where the Destiny Knot is going to come into play. So we'll select 5. Let's just say attack is not included in this, and if we get lucky, then it will choose the correct roll. So then we'll end up with a Marini that has 31. Who knows, it can be a random roll. That could also be a 31, but 6 IV Pokemon through breeding are very rare. Then we'll also have 31, 25, 31, 31. So as you can see, the 25 was inherited from the Toxapex, but there was no 31 stat. So this is why breeding is so important, that now we have a Marini that has 4 IVs that can now breed with another Marini, another Ditto, another Pokemon that has that 31 IV in the special attack slot, and then the offspring Pokemon has a chance of having 5 IVs. Hit points, defense, special attack, special defense, and speed. So that's kind of the whole idea of breeding. So you kind of want to keep condensing, and you kind of want to just keep making sure you're getting the best out of each parent Pokemon, and then using that for the offspring. Then you turn that offspring around, and then you breed it with another really good offspring, and you just try to condense it until you get 5 IVs on as many Pokemon as possible, and that's kind of to be expected because the Destiny Knot only passes down 5 IVs, and when you think about it, most Pokemon are going to fall into special attackers or physical attackers, or if they're mixed attackers, there's going to be a lesser defense stat that doesn't really matter on it. So say we have a modest Pokemon, well, we don't really need to worry about attack IVs, so that way you're wanting a 5 IV Pokemon without any IVs in attack, and then 31 on everything else. That way we have the maximum survivability, we have the maximum amount of speed, and we have the maximum amount of damage. But how do you get IVs in the first place? Well, that is going to be from Sos Battles. In Pokemon X and Y and Pokemon Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, it was a little different. We had the Dex Nav in Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire. We also had the Friend Safari, and there were various other ways of getting IVs into other Pokemon. But this is pretty much how you start it up. And in the system for Pokemon Sun and Moon, it will be Sos Battles. So as the Sos Battles chain on, you can get a Pokemon with up to 4 IVs. That's actually really massive, like 4 maximum IVs, 31 IVs in 4 different stats. So that means if you get really lucky and you get high chains on 2 of the same Pokemon and you catch one male, one female, you potentially have a 5-6 IV breeding pair already lined up. So that's what the Sos Battle is going to be for. Now, also depending on what groups you're going for, you're going to want a male Pokemon that has incredibly high IVs. If you can get 5 or 6 IV male Pokemon, then that means all of the other female Pokemon in that egg group can breed with that male Pokemon, and then the offspring have a really high chance of getting really good IVs. And since the female Pokemon are the ones that hatch, you just need one awesome male for each egg group, and then you're going to be good to go. Or you can also get a high IV Ditto, which we will talk about a little later on in this video. So through chaining method, you also aren't capped at 4 IVs, that there is a small chance that the random numbers on the other 2 IVs can end up in a 31. So it just helps out that you start off with a baseline of 4 IVs, then there's still a chance you can get 5 or even 6 IV Pokemon through the SOS method. The odds are still fairly low. It's 1 in 31, or actually 1 in 32 because 0 through 31. And then also you all have to multiply that. So it's close to 1 in 1,000 for 6 IV Pokemon through SOS, but still beats the odds of getting it straight up. Now the reason why I have Smeargle on screen right now is Smeargle is an excellent Pokemon for the field group, that it can sketch any move in the game, which means it can be a parent Pokemon for any move in the game for field egg group Pokemon. So that's where egg moves come into play. Now let's talk about egg moves. So you might notice if you're looking at a Pokemon stat page that there'll be a little bit of a description for egg moves. All you have to do is click on that little button right there, and they'll show you the Pokemon you need to breed with to receive those moves. So pretty much it's in the Pokemon's usable move pool, but egg moves will be required to breed with a different Pokemon, and you're not going to get through level up or TMs. So it's a a really exclusive way of receiving those moves. At the same time, it is going to be one of the mechanics required for breeding. So if we have a Pokemon that has a certain egg move, we can just have Smeargle sketch it, and then we can use that Smeargle to breed. So that'll only be usable in the field group, but it kind of shows that that is going to be very useful as well. Now, Ditto cannot be used for egg moves because it doesn't know any moves, and it's not going to work between other species and stuff. So at least there's that. Egg moves, as long as one of the Pokemon has the egg move and you're breeding it into the Pokemon with the egg move slot, you should be able to receive it just like that. So move inheritance is going to be mostly based around the egg moves. It used to be usable for TMs, but now that TMs can also be reused, we don't need to worry about it as much. And move tutors do not pass down in the egg moves, so that's something else to note right there. Okay, so now we've covered IVs, egg moves, the actual baby Pokemon. What about natures? Well, this is where the Everstone comes into play. So one Pokemon going to hold a Destiny Knot, and the other Pokemon will hold an Everstone. The Pokemon holding an Everstone will always pass down its nature to the offspring. So I think that's a pretty big thing to notice about. Also, depending on how many Dittos you catch and what you're using for Ditto, this is going to be a really easy way of having the right nature for the right Pokemon. That if none of the parent Pokemon have the correct nature, then what you want to do is like go out, run, catch a Ditto, try to get a Ditto with that nature. You can use a synchronized Pokemon. So there's like a long chain here. You can go out, catch Abra with Synchronize. If, say, you have an Adamant Abra with Synchronize, you can go out, use that to catch an Adamant Ditto. If you are using the chaining method, that means you have a higher chance of getting a 4IV Adamant Ditto. You give that to the Everstone, you give the other Pokemon the Destiny Knot, and that is how you get an offspring with the right nature and the right IVs. And then after you have that, then that's what you use to breed it with another Pokemon to get the egg moves, and that is effectively how breeding is going to work. With the SOS method, you don't only get good IVs, you also have a chance of getting the hidden ability of a Pokemon. So abilities are pretty much randomized, but a hidden ability will not appear out of thin air. One of the parent Pokemon needs to have the hidden ability. So if you're breeding it like a male and a female, the female Pokemon will have to have the hidden ability because you can't transfer it between species. Or if you're using a male, the male will have to breed with a Ditto to be able to pass down its hidden ability as well. And no, you can't take a hidden ability of one species of Pokemon and then magically make another species have the hidden ability. They do not work that way, so you can't really cheat the system like that. Now let's talk about ball inheritance, because in the 6th generation, only female Pokemon could pass down their balls. Well, in the 7th generation, male Pokemon can now pass down their balls as well, as long as they are breeding with a Ditto. So you have Pokemon breeding with a Ditto, the offspring will have the same ball as the parent did, and then when we're looking at it for females, females will always trump the male's balls, so that way we can have an example right here. The Ultra Ball Ditto didn't do anything, the Great Ball wouldn't pass through for the male, but with the female, the Ultra Ball will carry through, so the offspring will have some Ultra Balls on it. Next up, we have shiny Pokemon. So the Masuda method increases the chance of getting a shiny Pokemon while breeding, as long as the parents are from different regions. So that's going to be a pretty big thing right there, but as long as the parents are from different regions, then it just increases the shiny rate. Just like that. It's actually very easy, just like Google says. So this is why Japanese 6IV Dittos are pretty awesome, is that if you have a Japanese 6IV Ditto and you're not from Japan, well, you're getting an increased shiny chance. Also, you can use that Pokemon as your Destiny Knot Pokemon, and then all of the offspring are going to have very high IVs and a high shiny chance. However, breeding with hacked parents will result your Pokemon being illegal for competitive play. That the Pokemon Company has confirmed this, and it also pretty much means that if you see a giveaway for Japanese 6IV Dittos, hacked. Pretty much anytime you receive a Ditto from anywhere that is not a trusted friend, it will be an illegal Ditto, which means all of the offspring, all of the Pokemon you breed from that will be illegal as well. There's no way around it. Every Pokemon that is bred that way is illegal, and that Pokemon's entire lineage is also illegal as well, which is why you need to pay a lot of attention to where you're receiving your Pokemon from. Only trust close friends, only trust pretty much yourself, because since the majority of the Pokemon community does cheat. So that is a very big warning for you guys right there, that if something off the Wonder Trade seems too good to be true, most likely hacked. If you get it from like some kind of giveaway or something, especially if it's shiny, actually almost guaranteed to be hacked as well. So that will cause all of those Pokemon to be illegal. So don't do it. You need to pretty much get a lot of these things for yourself, or at least collaborate between a small group of friends, and then you'll be able to get the best Pokemon possible. Or make sure you get a hold of some trusted breeders and trainers, and that will be its own separate thing. So other than that, that's pretty much it. We've covered all the aspects of Pokemon. You want to really get a high IV Ditto and then kind of use that as your core. You also want to get some other male Pokemon in various parts of the egg groups. They don't have to worry about egg moves and stuff, but once you get a solid foundation of breeding going on, it'll be very easy to get a lot of proficiency and then a lot of speed in breeding. And this is why if anyone tells you that breeding takes no skill, you can laugh at them because they are an idiot that has no idea what they're talking about. There are a lot of mechanics and there is a lot of skill involved in breeding. Last little thing to talk about, I know people want to talk about Alolan Pokemon and non-Alolan forms. At this time, before the Pokebank has come out, there is no way of getting non-Alolan forms, but once the Pokebank comes out, non-Alolan forms will have these like traits and inheritance qualities. So I'll do a video guide when the time comes, because right now, no use, no point talking about it at this time. And then also, we can talk about the Pokepelago. There's a Hot Springs feature that slowly hatches eggs as you max it out. And that's kind of all there is to it. So there we go, guys. Breeding in Pokemon Sun and Moon, kind of the same. The methods for starting your breeding is going to be a little more challenging, I feel, but overall, it's going to be effectively the same. Then you get strong competitive Pokemon, you train them up, and then you are good to go. Final note, also, hyper training does not work with breeding, so you can't bottle cap a Ditto, give it 6 IVs, and then use that for breeding. That does not work, so there is no way around the system. Breeding is pretty much locked down in that kind of way. So if you guys did enjoy the video, hope you all have a nice day. Thank you very much for watching.